All right. Let me see here. Testing. Oh, it does work. Yay. Let's see. All right. Oh, hold on. All right, according to my clock here, it looks like it's top of the hour. So if everybody's in here, we'll go ahead and get started. So hopefully, well, first of all, I have to say thank you all for coming out. I'm surprised at the number of people still here at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. So thank you. Thank you for stopping in here with me. Sit down now. You're not leaving. You're in here, you stay. Hotel California rules. So yeah, as the slide says, this is Hillbilly Storytime, Pentest Fails. I've done versions of this, a couple other conferences. I've done some YouTube videos on it, stuff like that. We'll get more into what it is in a little bit, but first of all, let's go ahead and let you know who I am. Come on, work. You're just working. Why don't you work? Hey, there we go. All right, first fail. I can't figure out how to use my own little clicker. So before we get started with everything else, who am I? My name is Adam Compton. I've, over the years, been a number of different things, whether it's a pen tester, programmer, researcher, father, son, husband, all that. My son's sitting in the front row right here. You better be quiet. I'll get you. You're next. You want up here? Come on. I'm kidding. I currently work for Trusted Sec. Been there for just a couple months. Very happy for the opportunity to work with the awesome people over there. So, what am I going to be talking about? Stupid thing. I'll use the mouse next. All right. So, as the title slide said, this is Pentest Fails. Am I going to be talking about some new awesome hack, some new technique to compromise the system? No. You've had 3 days, 2.5 days of that, of amazing talks, amazing people up here talking about all that. I'm not going to be talking about that because, well, I don't do that. Well, I have a few, but not enough to talk about. What I'm going to be talking about is all the other kind of stuff that goes on in the pen tester's life. In particular, the times that we kind of mess up because whether you're just starting out in the industry, you've been in the industry a long time, you know that occasionally we make mistakes, sometimes more than occasionally. And when I was first starting out, or even today as I'm doing my research, doing work, I look around at these amazing people that I've seen up here talking this week. Here's these great new exploits, this great research I've done, all this great coding I've done, all that. And I look at it and go, why can't I do that? Why do I always try it and fail? Why do I have all these stumbling blocks, all that? Then I stop and think back that, well, odds are they're not just coming up with that out of the blue. They have their own process that we're just seeing the tail end of all that time they spent on it. They might have spent months, if not years, on some of this research, some of this coding. And we're just seeing that inglorious result of it. We're not seeing all the stumbling blocks and the failures along the way. And because of that, I want to share some of these other kind of stumbling blocks that people see to let them see the kind of things that go on behind the scenes to help people realize that everything isn't going to be all sunshine and roses, but you do have to work toward it, and you are going to stumble along the way, and all of us make mistakes. The way I'm going to do this is through conveying a few stories of my own past, of coworkers I've worked with, friends I've had, people who've told me their stories. It's about when we're doing pen tests, the kind of mistakes that can and have come up over time. All of these are real stories. Names, locations, things like that have been changed to protect the guilty and innocent and whatever the case is. I will probably be saying I've done most of these, which I may or may not have, but either way, just to add to the anonymity out there. So let's go ahead and get started here. Oh, one other thing. Other than this next slide, everything else will pretty much just be quotes. So have fun reading that, and hold on just a second. All right. So when I got started in pen testing, it was sort of a haphazard thing. I was applying to a company. I got accepted to the company. it took a few months between the acceptance and me showing up there. I showed up, and they're like, yeah, I'm sorry, that division you were wanting to go to doesn't exist anymore. So find a new position. I'm like, oh, thank you. And they gave me like a couple days, a week, something like that to find a position. And I happened to stumble on something that sounded really cool. It was called, they called it, it's an attack center. It was what they called Blue Team. It's different than what most people call Blue Team. I'll leave that aside, but they did pen testing effectively. And I'm like, oh, sounds interesting. I have no idea what that is, but I want to try that. So I applied to the office. They're like, sure, come on in. So I got in there, and first day, they're like, welcome to the team. There's your desk. Over there's a stack of old Spark machines and Ultra 5s and Pentium processors and all that. Build yourself a network. I'm like, okay. That first week, they had me building a network, trying out the tools that they had in their repertoire. Keep in mind, this is back around 2000, so there weren't a lot of tools at that time. It was just learning the operating system, trying to get into being a system administrator concept. I was a programmer through college and all that, so I dealt in a lot of Unix already, so I was getting the hang of it. Second week comes around, they come by my desk like, come on, you're going with us. Well, where are we going? We're going to go do an engagement. I'm like, okay, thank you. So we go off and we do the engagement, and it proceeded this way for a while. Me more or less just being taken almost literally under the wing of some more senior people saying, come on, let's go try this. And that worked well. I love that. I learned by fire, basically, like you're getting thrown right into it. And I learned from some amazing people at the time. I unfortunately have lost track of them over the years. They've went off to do their own things. Every once in a while I'll run into them, but some amazing, amazing people there. So eventually the time came that they're like, okay, it's time for you to do your own engagement. No supervision here. So me and another semi-new person there, they're like, okay, you're going to have an external engagement. Here's the target ranges they provided us, the customer provided us. Go ahead. And we're like, okay, it's Friday. Is there any restriction on us going ahead and kicking off some port scans, stuff like that right now? And they're like, no, go ahead, that's fine. So we fire up Nmap, which was fairly new still at the time, not been around too long. We fire it up, we feed it the target ranges, and hit go. We're like, okay, it's 5 o'clock, we're going home. So we all pack up, go home. Sometime later that evening, early the next morning, honestly, I don't remember at this time, I got a call from my manager. You might want to come into the office. We need to have a talk. I'm like, oh, great, what's going on? I show up, myself, my coworker who was helping me on this, my manager and a few other people were sitting there. They're like, were you running a scan last night? I'm like, well, yeah, I told you we were going to. He's like, who are you scanning? I'm like, okay, we give them the list. He's like, well, because some undisclosed auto manufacturer in the South has said that we've been scanning them now. I'm like, they're not on the range. We go pull up the command that I executed. Keep in mind, this is old version of Nmap. I was new to the industry still. I didn't know, or maybe there wasn't at the time, the -I capital L for the input file. So I put all their target ranges out on the command line. They had a lot of them, keep in mind. And at some point, Unix or Nmap 1 decided to truncate the command line at some given point out there. So, Nmap being as helpful as it could there, it sees a partially completed dotted octet there, decides to go ahead and fill in the remainder of it for us. Those don't match. So yeah, this came about because I was in a hurry. It was a Friday. I was new to the industry. I didn't know the tool well enough. I didn't know what was going to happen in this scenario. I made assumptions. Well, the end result of this is that the auto manufacturer contacted us. We're like, we're sorry about that, blah, blah, blah. They're like, that's fine. Did you find anything? We're like, I'm like, well, you have some websites and a DNS server, but no worries about that. And you're like, okay. So it got glossed over. Everybody had a good laugh about it. And that started my entire process of learning from mistakes in pen testing. So this was probably the most notable from very early in my career that got me, yes, what?
Look at your face. No, it's a serious question. Did they become a client?
No. No, they were not in our target demographic for a customer.
Did you find anything?
No. No. Maybe and if I worked for a different employer at the time, but yes. No, so that was the one that got me started in the whole industry, learning from mistakes and all that. And even then, my mentors in my company's like, look, these things happen. Learn from your mistakes. Carry on. Just learn from it, really. Just don't do it again. I'm telling you, don't do it again. So let's go ahead and get started in on some more recent kind of failures here. This is one that happened, well, the next story here is one that happened maybe, I don't know, a year or so ago. And it revolves around a tool called SEIT. Stands for, I actually have no idea what it stands for. It's or SIET. It targets the Cisco Smart Install application process. The tool itself, there was a vulnerability out there, and the tool would allow you to connect to it and download the running config. It's awesome. It's a great little scenario there, given the right conditions. Given the right conditions. Also, you could upload a new running config, and it would take it and go with it. So you could attack systems this way and all that. It was great. Well, it was on an engagement. Target customer had lots of Cisco devices. We ran this, dumped the running config off of all of them, pulled out passwords out of there, had fun, carried on, attacked the rest of the network. Everything was great. How, unfortunately, there was a bug in SIET that had been patched that we weren't aware of. And we didn't realize this until sometime after the engagement when the customer calls us up and says, what did y'all do to our Cisco devices? Because we just had to reboot them due to something, and we have no configs. Like, we didn't do it. No. So we started looking into it, and there was a bug that had been fixed in the tool sometime prior to us actually doing the engagement. And the bug was that there was another option of the tool that you can do -T, which says to test if this is possible to do. Can it run against this target? And it only happens if you run the test option. If you run the test option, it deletes the running config. It deletes the startup config. It leaves the running config alone. It just deletes the startup config. Yeah. So we ran the test on them all the ones that came back valid. We ran and pulled down the running config. Didn't know anything about it. Well, luckily we were able to help this customer out and mitigate a few things because we're like, by the way, we have your running configs here if you want them back. So they were less angry at that point, but this is one of those things though. The lesson learned that we got out of this was that if you're going to use a tool that you don't use on a regular basis, that you don't know in and out, like insides and out of all the way, check the developer notes on it. See if there's been any updates to it. See if there's been any known bugs come out, like it deletes the startup config, things like that. That would have been great for us to have known prior to running it because we could have just updated and we'd been fine, and the customer wouldn't have been mad and all the fun stuff there. But these things do happen. Luckily, we were able to recover from this one because we did still have the running configs where we pulled them down and things of that nature. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to be bouncing around with the different types of stories here a little bit. This one is one about I don't even have a good term for it, but during engagements, sometimes you get frustrated with the customer, or as the customer, you get frustrated with the pen testers. These things happen. People accept this. People assume this. Unfortunately, on this one engagement, it was a very painful engagement in general, very adversarial between customer and client, consultant and customer here, very adversarial. And there was a decent-sized team on the pen test side here, or the red team. And at night, one night, they decided to go out, have a few drinks, eat at a local eatery. And while they were there, they were just complaining and voicing some of the frustrations they had, things of that nature, getting a little into it. Now, keep in mind, nothing wrong with that. Just know your surroundings. Unfortunately, this group of individuals did not notice their surroundings. They happened to be in a small town in the middle of nowhere, where pretty much everybody knows everybody, and there's only like a handful of little places to go eat. And well, they'd been there for a decent number of, for a couple hours at night, eating and drinking and all that. And at the end of the night, they're all getting ready to pack up. By the time somebody from a neighboring table walks over and says, "Great conversation y'all are having there. I'll see you in the morning." It was the head of the blue team. The in-house blue team at the customer, yeah. Needless to say, the adversarial nature of the engagement did not get any better. So, I mean, it's just one of these things. Like, everybody understands that you're going to have frustrations every once in a while, and you need to vent them. My advice is just don't vent them in a public place where the customer might hear them or what have you. Be civil about it. This is probably the most non-humorous story I have, but it's one that actually came back to have a noticeable impact on the engagement. Everything actually got considerably worse, much more adversarial after that, because they knew each other's gripes at that time. So, but yeah, it's just one of those. Just be aware of where you're at, who you're talking to, who are you talking about, and who's around you at the time. In this case, if they just looked around or even just kept their mouths shut, this wouldn't have happened. So that one is fully on the pen tester, no excuse for that. But if you want to, there's Slack, there's IRC channels, there's all this that you can talk to your coworkers on. But now, get back to something more fun. Once upon a time, there was a couple physical engagements, social engineering physical assessments. One in particular happened to be in New York. Tacker, the consultant, shows up on site, or a couple of them show up on site. They take the address of the target. They walk around. It's somewhere up near Central Park. It's supposed to be on like the 10th floor of some building. They're walking around to see, scoping out the place, see what's going on there. They're walking around. Everything looks good. There's some suspicious, really huge guard in there, but we'll avoid him for now. Finally, they get up the nerve. They get everything ready. They're ready to break into the building. They get into the building. They manage to get by the security guard. They get on the elevator. It's a badge system. They manage to tailgate behind somebody, get off on the right floor, get through the door. So they're in the building. Perfect scenario. Got in, no problems, no questions asked. They start looking around. What was the name of the company we're supposed to attack? This don't look right. They start looking at letterheads. They start looking at the signs on the wall. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this isn't our target. Get back out the door, down the elevator, go down to the directory at the bottom of the elevator. Sure enough, company is not listed there. Walk outside, call up your project manager. Hey, look, yeah, we're doing company XYZ here, and we're at their location, and they're not here. What do you mean? No, they're really not here. They're not in the building. Oh, well, no, that's the right address. They call up the customer. The customer's like, oh, yeah, well, that's where we were 6 months ago when we first contracted you. Since then, we've moved. Thanks for letting us know. So they get the new address. They go over there. They do their job. Luckily, no one got arrested. No one got busted for breaking into the wrong company here. We did tell the project manager that it was so easy to get into that company. I don't know what they did with that. Maybe they got engagement out of it. I don't know. But either way, yeah, you might want to make sure that you're breaking into the right place when you break into it. So, and another one, a similar scenario. We're walk into a building. It's a communal little strip mall looking thing. Trying to break into a bank. Bank is right here on the right. There's a few other doors around. Trying to get into that bank was really difficult because it was all glass, like everything. No solid walls except for the outside walls. Everything else was glass. It was really weird. And a very mean receptionist sitting at the front desk would not let anybody by. So we're waiting for lunch. We see her a little distracted. Somebody's in there. So we're walking up there and we're like, maybe if we just follow somebody. So have your head down, got your bag, you're walking. Somebody opens the door, you walk through. You're like, this ain't a bank. You walk through the wrong door. Doors side by side. Glass door here, metal door here. The person you were following opened the other door. You weren't trying to be suspicious. You're trying to follow behind. Walked into a university engineering lab. So, okay, same thing, walk back out, shut the door, and ultimately failed to get access to that particular target because of the way it was configured. I've never been in a fully glass office before. That was, I have to say, if you're wanting to protect your office from people just walking around in there, make all your walls glass. You can see them. I'm just saying. That is really hard to sneak around in a glass building. Especially when you're short and fat. So, I get noticed. So, oh yeah, there's another one. While I'm on the topic of physical engagements, a long time ago, broke into a building, coworker with me. We have our bag of tools with us. We're walking around. Easy to get into the building-ish, not like super complex, but got into the building. We're walking around. We find the back door. We're like, we're going to go ahead and see if we can. You want to see if we can get in through this for the outside, maybe jimmy the door or something like that so we can come back later? Absolutely, absolutely. So he opens the door, go outside. We're looking around to see what there is there. We hear click. You didn't hold the door? No, I thought you were holding the door. Damn it. It's bad enough. No. Our bag of stuff was in the building. There was a comms closet nearby. We'd left everything. So then we're outside the building in a fenced-in area without our way back in. So we got back in ultimately. But yeah, it's just one of these things. Communication with your partner on an engagement is great. If you're going to walk outside and somebody needs to hold the door, make sure one of you holds that door. What?
Did you find the pool in the roof?
No. I've tried many times. It's not there. I'm convinced, or I'm on the wrong roof. I don't know. So, wow, I really said that word weird. All right. Yeah. So, in this one, I'm going to say you're the intern because you annoy me. No. Several companies ago, I was working on a web app assessment, and this was for at the time I was working for a company that loved to sell 8-hour engagements. I have no idea why they wanted to sell 8-hour engagements. That included reporting and all. But either way, we were given a web app for 8 hours on this target, and we're sitting here looking at it. We try all day, can't get in. And we finally get to a point where we're almost ready to be fed up with it. We worked through lunch and all that. We just wanted to get in there. We're really stoked about it for whatever reason. I don't know. But we get to a point where we think we have local command execution. Everything looks like it can. We're getting some indicators like the commands are executing. We need it to tunnel stuff back out of the network. But we can't get it out of the network for some reason. We're sitting there scratching our head. It's late in the evening at this point. We went well past the 8 hours already. And we're sitting there just scratching our head and everything, trying to bash our head on this. Can't figure it out. We're getting really tired. We're hungry. The intern walks over. Eric. No. No, sit down. The intern walks over and says, what are y'all doing? And we give him the story. He's like, oh, so you just want to find out why it's not getting out of the network. We're like, yeah, sure. And he comes up with a plausible solution, at least plausible if you're really hungry and tired at the time. It's like, if you, I don't remember what year it was, but it's like if you enable the Windows firewall or something like that, I forget what it was, or I guess it was the Windows firewall. It's like if you make if something's being blocked, then it will actually log what application was logged. It was airing out and all that, and you can see that. And I'm like, great. We issued the command blindly to enable the Windows firewall. Needless to say, we packed up our stuff and went home because what little access we had to that system just went into the vapor. And we called the customer in the morning, hey, yeah, look, you might want to check this. And by the way, you have a clean system. We can't get in. But no, we did talk to them, but it was one of these things that had we been feeling better, had we eaten, had we taken the time, a little break, had our company not sold a 8-hour engagement to do this, things might have turned out much differently. But it's one of these things that when you're starting to be sleep deprived, don't operate heavy machineries and don't do pen tests. And don't shoot guns at the same time. All of that is bad. So, let's talk a little bit about some phishing exercises that been involved in over the years. Actually, one in particular we're going to talk about. This is one where got an engagement. It was not like just a whaling or spear phishing. It was like just target the company in general, see how, test their user awareness training, stuff like that. So it's a more standard one. The team got it. The senior consultant's like, okay, that's great. Here, consultant, you take care of this. He's like, oh, okay. Here, intern, you take care of this. He's like, okay. So he takes off, and he's like, so we have 500 targets here. We need to do phishing exercise. That's great. I did one of these last week. I'll just mirror that, and we'll be good. I'm like, okay, that's fine. If you've got something that you can use that works well, go for it. So he sets it all up. No one questions it. And like, are you good? He's like, yeah, we're good. We're good. He's like, okay, go ahead. Let's kick off the engagement. Broke it into 2 groups of about 250 each or so. Kicks it off on 250 of them just to see how it works out. We sit there watching the logs, watching the stuff come in. Nothing's coming in. We're like, wow, it's been an hour and we haven't got a single hit off of that. This is kind of weird. We would have expected to get a few in there at least off of even really good companies. I don't think this is a really good company. So sitting there, after a couple hours pass, it's around lunchtime, we're like, that's it. We call an end to that one. We go back and look at it. Emails got sent, that's fine. The website wasn't turned on. It was a credential harvesting one. The website needs to be enabled for that, I would assume. So yeah, we're like, fine. We can still do something here. We burned about 250 of those emails now. A lot of people just saw that email come out, so that's fine. We'll come up with something else. So we tweak it a little bit, make sure the web server is up and running. This time, yes, it's running. We send an email, we get the link. We're going quickly through here, click it, takes you to the website. We're just validating everything's up. Good. All right, I send it off on the rest of them. Send it off. Okay, we get some hits coming in. Not many, just a few. Way less than we would expect at the rate, but they're coming in. We're like, okay, well, we're getting hits. We'll let it run through the rest of the day. We kill it. We're like, okay, why didn't we get more hits off this? The hits we did get, we were able to compromise the system or log into their OWA or whatever, get in, validate the attack and all that. But at the end, we're looking at, why wasn't this? Let's go back and reevaluate the engagement. We would go back, look at the email. Okay, they all sent. Okay, let's go ahead and try to send it ourselves. We look at it. Wait a second. I thought we were targeting Acme. This says this is Johnson's XYZ. Mr. Intern, when you said you're just going to mirror that engagement you did last week, how close did you mirror that? He copied the files directly over. Just changed the target email addresses. Website came up with the other logo, came up with everything for the old company. So it was bad. But we got to turn this into find the silver lining in there for the engagement. Like, look, Mr. Customer, when we sent a extremely obvious phishing attack with wrong email, with wrong targets, wrong company name, wrong logo, 3% of your employees still clicked on it and provided their credentials. I don't know if that would ever happen again, but at least, yeah. We got to save a little face in there, but we had egg on our face definitely on that one. So just double check, make sure everything is working before you kick off engagements. Yeah, lesson learned. So, hope everybody's enjoying these kind of stories. So, they're fun to think back on now. Not so much at the time when it was happening, but yeah. So, there was an engagement we were doing. It was a web app test or external internet-facing assessment. The target range they provided us didn't really have much in it. A couple simple websites, a couple VPN logins, and what appeared to be some IP cameras, internet-based cameras. Like, okay, we target some of those stuff, don't really get much out of it. We ultimately do compromise it through one of the web apps, but first we're seeing the IP cameras. We're like, oh, great. What are we going to do with this? Well, What brand is it? Go look it up. Is there default credentials? Yes. Let's try them. Oh, look, we got in. Okay. So we're looking at it here, and we're going, oh, that's a nice view. Or one of them in particular, that's a nice view of outside somebody's window. Okay, that's fine. Oh, what's this? Pan and tilt and zoom options? Let's start zooming around. Zoom around, and like, oh, there's a whiteboard with a lot written on it. There's a desk with a lot on it. Oh, there's some papers. Let's zoom in. Oh, all of a sudden, it homed back to the original settings, and it was looking out the window. That's kind of weird. I wonder what's going on there. So we sat there for a few minutes. We we pan around again. Roughly the same amount of time, it resets itself again. We're like, wow, that's really weird. So we go look up the documentation on the line. Does there any sort of like auto default, something like that? No, can't find anything. Well, we wait a few hours, and then we're like, okay, let's try it again. We try it again. We zoom over this time to the whiteboard. We find what we think is some passwords written up there, some user accounts, all that. We're zooming in, and we're writing it all down. And then this time it homes back out the window, and we see a face looking in it. We're like, oh, that's why that's doing that. So we contact the customer, our point of contact, like, hey, look, you probably had somebody report that their camera was moving around. He's like, not yet, no. We tell him the IP and what it's doing. He goes, oh, yeah, that's the camera that shows what the weather is outside, and we put that on our homepage. Whose office is that in? Oh, that's in the IT director's office. I'm like, oh, that's great. By chance, do you think he would write important passwords on his whiteboard? Yeah? You might want to change those. Yeah, we just broadcast that to the world. Sorry. So, yeah. There's been other scenarios with internet-based cameras, too. One in particular, we compromised, same sort of thing, password, default credentials for an IP camera. We get on there, we're looking around, supposed to be targeting some sort of legal firm or whatever, and we're looking at hallways, classrooms, cafeteria, playground. We're looking at an elementary school. We go back, look at the IP range, yep, checks out. We go back to the customer, look at it, they're like, oh yeah, that's one we had years ago, we let that expire. You think you could update that before you tell the pen testers to look at it? Sorry. Granted, that's on us, not validating the target ranges, not validating who is, stuff like that. Whatever reason, yeah. So, yeah, we ended up reaching out to the school district, letting them know they need to change passwords and all that. I believe they did, but this is on the pen tester as much as it is on the customer here. Whatever you're provided by the customer, whether it is IP ranges or addresses as it was in the physical assessment, validate it, verify it, make sure that it is what it's supposed to be. If something doesn't look right, like you're looking at a playground, it's supposed to be a legal firm, validate. If you question it, just make sure that it's correct, because you don't want to get into actual legal trouble out of this. It's any number of things there, but yeah, just validate stuff. Make sure things are looking right. Make sure that everybody is on the same page. Most of the issues that occur during engagements, in my personal opinion, in my personal experience, has been due to lack of communication between team members, between the team members and the customer, between sales and the customer. Lack of communication somewhere in that process has led to the vast majority of the issues I've ever encountered on an engagement. So, a little bit in summary here. We're closing it up a little bit, but as I said, always double check everything, no matter if you think it looks right, double check it. Run who is on it, run Aaron on it, whatever. Just make sure the IP ranges look right. If the customer gives you email addresses, make sure the email addresses are for the right domain. Just on the off chance somebody copy and paste it out of the wrong column in the what have you. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Might want to double check, see number one. Never rely on just one access vector. That goes back to the locking yourself out of the building you just broke into. Make sure you have it way back in. Understand, update your tools, all the same stuff there. And back to the little more serious stuff again. It's okay to make mistakes. I'll just go ahead and say it out there. People make mistakes. It's part of being human. It's part of any job. It's okay to make mistakes. based on the severity of those mistakes, the outcome of it is based on the severity of those mistakes, but rarely have I ever seen a pen tester or somebody make the kind of mistake that is instantly like, no, you're fired on the spot. I have seen those, very rare, but it does occur. But for the majority of them, or even those in particular also, if you make a mistake, stop, take a moment, figure out why that mistake occurred. What was the cause of it? Were you in a hurry? Were you not wanting to validate something? Were you making assumptions? Were you, whatever the scenario is, and internalize that. Try to figure out what was going on there. How can you mitigate that? How can you prevent that in the future? But understand also that it's not just you making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I've been doing this line of work for going on 19-ish years now, and I still make mistakes. Not all the time, luckily, but I do make mistakes on enough that I still want to make these kind of presentations. I still want to make these talks to help the people out to understand that, look, you're going to make mistakes in this field. Everybody's going to make these kind of mistakes. Hopefully not the same ones I do, but you're going to have your own mistakes. And that's okay. Learn from them, move on, and grow from it. Is there anything else I wanted to say? No. Next thing is, we still have a few minutes in here. I always like to leave a few minutes here at the end for anybody with comments of their own, stories of their own, requests of their own for me to share. These were probably 7 or 8 stories I shared here. As I said, I have a little under 2 decades worth of stories that I can share. So if anybody has a different kind of question, a different kind of view they would like to hear, by all means, raise your hand and we'll pass the mic around to you here. Anyone?
Have you been caught by police before?
Have I been caught by the police before? No. Have coworkers of mine been caught by the police? Yes, and that's a great pen test fail story right there as well. I'm glad somebody asked.
If you have time, tell it.
I will. It was a physical engagement. As with all of us who do physical engagements, you have that nice little memo, card, whatever you want to call it, that says, it's your get out of jail free card. That says, so-and-so is authorized to do whatever he wants to this customer at this time, at this location. Here's the people who sign off on it. Great. He had that. He had it in his pocket. He went to break into this building. It was in some sort of shopping district up in Boston. And keep in mind, this actually turns out to be shortly after the Boston bombing. So bad timing, bad scenario. People weren't thinking. What he's trying to do is he's trying to deliver a package full of goodies to leave at the front desk for people to get and plug into their drives and stuff like that. He walks in there, drops it off at the front desk, and is leaving. People stop and question him, of course. Why not? And things keep getting worse. They're talking to him, and he's like, oh, no, I'm supposed to be here, blah, blah, blah. He gives the story. I'm delivering this. And they are not buying it. They're like, fine, if you're supposed to be here, can you give us the name and number, whoever's supposed to do it. He ultimately ends up having to pull out the get out of jail free card, hands it to them. They're like, fine, we're going to call these people. First person calls, no answer. Second person calls, no answer. No one on the call list answers. He's sitting there. They finally get through to somebody because they left a voicemail. Somebody finally calls back. After the cops arrive, he's in handcuffs, sitting on the bench, waiting for it to be picked up. The point of contact finally calls, authorizes it, they let him out, all that. So if you're going to do a physical engagement or anything that requires a get out of jail free card, make sure those people are going to answer their phone when they get called. Bad things happen when it doesn't. Also another scenario, almost arrested, almost caught in cuffs, breaking into a bank. Coworker of mine trying to get into the bank. He's going through, getting in there. He actually is behind the tellers. He's doing stuff back there. Finally, the bank manager starts to question a little more and question. And he starts to see people making phone calls. And he's like, this is getting bad fast. So he's sitting there. He's like, yeah, hold on a second. I got my paperwork in the car. Let me go get it. He gets in the car, and he's pulling out the parking lot. He's turning onto the road as SWAT pulls into the parking lot. He calls up the point of contact and says, yeah, I was just at bank location blah. You might want to take care of this. I think SWAT just showed up. I'm out of there. Peace. So, yeah. Now, he goes into the next location. They have his picture already waiting on him there, so he's got busted there. But yeah, so it does happen. I've not known anybody to actually be fully arrested and taken and booked for it, but in cuffs, yes. Almost attacked by SWAT, yes. Anyone else? Yes. Physical copy, yes. I arrived on site. I didn't have it. I called up my office. They scanned it, PDF, sent it to me. I had it on my phone. Luckily, in that scenario, I didn't need it, but I would much prefer to have a physical copy with you at all times, or actually multiple, one in your bag, one in your pocket, one in your car. Have them in wherever you might need them, but yes, it does happen that you forget them, and in the scenario like that, try to get a copy on your phone, try to get a copy on your laptop, find a Kinko's, print it out, whatever the scenario is, but it's something that you really should have with you. Luckily, in all the scenarios I have forgot it, I've never actually needed it, so knock on wood. Yes?
You ever hear of a pin test that when you get into the system or whoever gets into the system realizes that the machine's already popped?
I've done that, yes. There is a hospital I used to target for ongoing engagements, and it had been 6 months since the last engagement. We get on there, and as part of an engagement, one of the things that we did was, for this particular scenario, we would run I think it was Nessus or something against it. And we're sitting there, and one of the things it alerted on was, hey, look, some of the IPs in this range are part of XYZ botnet. I'm like, okay. We hand it over to our IR team and let them know that, or point of contacts and all that, and our IR team gets involved and comes to find out it's part of some Russian mob money thing, I don't know. But yes, I've also been on engagements before where I go to pop some web app, I get my web shell, I get into the directory, do an LS, I see like 10 other web shells in there. Half of them are from our previous engagements. The rest are from other companies that do pen tests. If you drop a shell or a web shell on a box, clean up after yourselves, people. That's good hygiene. Come on. I'm probably guilty of that myself over the years too. If you create an account, if you create a backdoor, clean up after yourselves. At least give the customer documentation if whatever reason the box goes offline or something. Say, here's where these things need to be cleaned up. We can't do it. Thank you. But yeah, more than once have I gotten onto systems where there's been Mimikatz.exe sitting there or WCE.exe already sitting there. I'm like, why? Why is this? Well, thank you, but why? But yeah, no, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, in the back right there.
Can you share one of the stories where someone just got fired after that? They made such a big mistake that they just lost their job?
Yes, and I probably shouldn't, but yes, I probably could at the same time. Yes, I know. I will go back to my government days then. No, I'll go back to my government days. There was a number of times when we would target I was a government contractor, target facilities and what have you. And in one of them, the network was staffed by contractors, not by government employees. And we're sitting there, and we were wondering why it was so aggressive. Like, he was pushing back on us on every single thing we did. We just wanted to get a network tap, and we just wanted to connect up somewhere. He's like, oh, you can't do that. Blah. And we finally get on there. He wouldn't give us access to anything. We got our own ways in, hacked in, part of our engagement. And we get on there, and we see, like, PlayStations hooked up to it. We see all kind of stuff on there. We see stuff that really shouldn't be hooked up on that network. We go to the base commander, give him the report, and when we go back 6 months later to do that, that contracting company is not there. So I'm pretty sure they got fired over that one. And that's one that happened 15 years ago. So I can feel safe to share that one. So beyond that, I'm sure many times we've done engagements where it was, well, most of the time we're hired by the chief security officer or somebody like that to do the engagement. Occasionally I've been hired by the audit team at a company to do it. That becomes adversarial very quickly as it's targets between the us and the actual security team, because they didn't want us there. The audit team wants us there. So odds are bad things happened after we left between internal politics there. I can't really go into that. I don't really know, but so yeah. Sorry I can't go into that one too much more, and I had to talk in generics there, but yes. I'm sure there's been many scenarios that people have gotten in trouble and or lost jobs after engagements. On the pen testers, no, I've never been in a scenario where the pen tester's lost his job, where somebody at the company has lost his job, so.
That's like a whole company.
Yeah, yeah,
A whole office.
yeah. Yes, somebody in the very back. Thank you, thank you.
What were the funniest or best coincidences that ever happened when you were on engagement that allowed you to take control?
The best scenario that's ever let us take control of a network. Showed up at a customer, sitting in the lobby, waiting for the point of contact to come down and get us. Jumped onto the wireless open guest network. It wasn't segmented from the corporate network. Got onto there, ran responder, had domain admin before the point of contact showed up to pick us up on Monday morning. That was best scenario. Yes.
Have you ever gotten into a building and then been trapped in there?
Almost. I'll leave this one to a coworker of mine who is in this scenario. Got into a building, was walking around. He got into it was, I don't know, an accounting firm, something like that. He got back into the file folder area. He's back there looking at stuff, and it's one way in, narrow hallways. He's back in there looking at stuff, and this lady comes back to him. I don't know who she was, the floor manager or somebody who works there, I don't know, comes in there and tries to stop him. And question him. He's like, he's red-handed. He's not supposed to be there. He's not supposed to be pulling out people's W-2s and stuff. I don't know. He's going through all kinds of stuff he should not have access. And she keeps trying to question him. And he's like, oh, my phone is, sorry. Oh, you're outside right now. Okay. And she keeps badgering him, trying to get him to stop and all that. And he just keeps ignoring her, walking away. And she's chasing after him. He runs outside, jumps in his car and takes off. I'm sure some incident was written up about that, but yeah. And one of my other favorite stories of getting caught and trapped was a different coworker of mine, smoker, went in through the smoker's entrance, got in there. Once he got in there, the people he's piggybacked behind are like, wait a second, where's your badge at? And they busted him right there. So they're like, you got to come with us. Take him over to the security office. They walk him down the hallway to the security office. He knocks on the door. No one answers. He goes, wait, right here. He opens the door, goes in there. As soon as he steps in there, friend turns and books it down the hallway. Went to a different floor. An hour later, they find him at a desk hacking away. They grab him, take him, yeah. I'm like, man, I wish I had the ability to do that one. But you see this running down hallways, yeah, people are going to tackle me. But yes, thank you all very much. I think we're out of time. Thank you.